I work reception at a boutique hotel in Edinburgh. An American couple checked in and immediately asked where they could find authentic Scottish food, not the tourist garbage. I suggested a traditional pub 2 streets over. The husband looked suspicious. Do they have Yelp reviews? I said most locals don't use Yelp here. He stared at me like I'd announced we still used carrier pigeons. How do people know if a place is good? Word of mouth, I explained. He shook his head. That's so backwards. In America, we have systems. His wife nodded solemnly, as if I'd just confessed Scotland hadn't discovered the internet yet. A guest once asked our London taxi driver if he took dollars. The driver said no, just pounds. The guest held up a $50 bill and said, "But it's American money." The driver replied, "Brilliant. And this is England." The guest looked genuinely confused, like the concept of different currencies was a personal attack. She asked if there was an exchange place nearby that's not a scam. The driver said, "Try a bank." She frowned. "Banks do that here?" An American tourist at our hotel asked where the original Starbucks was. I said that was in Seattle. She looked confused. "But coffee comes from Europe." I said coffee came from Africa and South America, actually. She insisted her teacher told her Europeans invented coffee shop. I said coffeehouses started in the Middle East. She said, same thing. I didn't have the energy to continue. These stories never get old. Let me tell you about the time things got truly ridiculous. I manage a hotel in Manchester. An American businessman checked in and handed me his passport. Standard procedure, I scanned it, handed it back. He looked offended. "Aren't you going to stamp it?" I explained we don't stamp passports at hotels, only at border control. He insisted he needed a stamp for every place he stayed, because that's how it worked internationally. I told him that wasn't a thing. He said, "I've traveled to 12 countries." I said, "Congratulations, but hotels still don't stamp passports." He pulled out his phone and started searching for evidence. After 2 minutes of scrolling, he looked up triumphantly. "It says here some countries stamp passports at accommodations." I asked which countries. He couldn't name one. "It's a European thing," he said vaguely. I reminded him he was in England. "Exactly," he said. "Europe." He demanded to speak to my manager. My manager explained the same thing. He accused us of cutting corners on international protocols. He wanted documentation proving hotels don't stamp passport. My manager suggested he call the actual passport office if he needed official clarification. He said that was our job, not his. He left a review saying we refused to follow international check-in standards. The review had 3 paragraphs about how British hotels were living in the past, and American hotels would never treat guests this way. I work at a petrol station outside Cambridge. An American pulled up and started filling his rental car. He came inside looking angry. "Your gas pump is broken." I asked what was wrong. He said the numbers were going up too fast. I looked at his receipt. He'd pumped 45 liters. I explained we use liters, not gallons. He said that didn't make sense. A liter is tiny. That can't be right. I showed him the conversion chart on the wall. He studied it, then shook his head. "This is a scam. You're charging by liters to make it seem cheaper per unit, then boom, massive total." I explained that's just how we measure fuel. He said the metric system was designed to confuse Americans. I said it was designed in France in the 1700s, long before America was concerned. He waved that off, still suspicious. He demanded I recalculate his total in gallons. I told him the pump didn't work that way. He said, "Just divide by 4. I said the conversion wasn't that simple. He insisted it was close enough. I pulled up a calculator and did the conversion properly. He looked at the result and said, "See? That's way less gas than what I paid for. I explained he got exactly what he paid for, just measured differently. He couldn't wrap his head around it. He left muttering about metric propaganda and how America stayed strong with freedom units. I bartended at a pub in Bristol. An American sat down and ordered a pint. I poured it, he paid, I gave him change. He left the coins on the bar. Standard. 10 minutes later, he waved me over, looking annoyed. You didn't thank me for the tip. I said tips weren't expected here but were appreciated. His face darkened. I left you £3, I thanked him. He wasn't satisfied. In America, servers remember their tippers. I said I'd remember him. You don't seem grateful, he pressed. I explained UK service culture doesn't revolve around tips the way American culture does. He said that was why British service is so bad. I asked if his service had been bad. He admitted it was fine. But it could be better if you incentivized it properly, he said. I told him our wages didn't depend on tip. He looked horrified. Then what's motivating you? I suggested professional pride. He scoffed. He started lecturing other customers about tipping culture, telling them they were enabling poor service by not tipping American percentages. One regular told him to pipe down. He said he was educating people. The regular said, "We're trying to drink." He called our pub economically backwards in his review and said British workers had no hustle because we didn't work for our money like Americans do. I work at a post office in Liverpool. An American woman walked past 6 people in the queue and came straight to my counter. I pointed to the line. She said, "I just have a quick question." I said everyone just has a quick question, that's why there's a queue. She rolled her eyes. This is exactly why America is more efficient. I told her to join the queue. She didn't move. In America, customer service means helping people immediately. I said in Britain, customer service means fairness, and fairness means queuing. She argued that her time was valuable. I suggested everyone's time was valuable. She said she had a train to catch. I said that wasn't my problem. She demanded to speak to my supervisor. My supervisor told her the same thing. She joined the queue, muttering loudly about British rudeness. When she finally reached the counter, her quick question took 8 minutes because she didn't have the right form filled out. She told me I should have helped her initially, instead of wasting everyone's time. I reminded her she'd wasted her own time by arguing. She said American efficiency would have solved this. I asked how. She couldn't explain. She left in a huff, but not before announcing to everyone waiting that she'd be reporting this location to the American embassy. Someone in the queue laughed. She didn't appreciate that. I work at a cafe in Oxford. An American woman ordered tea. Simple enough. I brought her a teapot, cup, milk, and sugar. She stared at it like I'd delivered a puzzle. "Where's the tea?" I pointed to the teapot. She opened it and saw the tea bag inside. "You didn't make it?" I explained she needed to let it steep. She looked annoyed. In America, tea comes ready to drink. I said she just needed to wait 3 minutes. She said that was terrible service. She poured the water immediately, didn't let it steep, added milk, tasted it, and grimaced. "This tastes like hot water." I explained she didn't let it steep. She said I should have told her that. I said I did. She insisted I didn't say it clearly enough. "You should make the tea properly before bringing it out." I explained that's not how tea service works in Britain. People prefer to control the strength themselves. She demanded a refund because the tea was defective. I said the tea was fine, she just didn't prepare it correctly. She said it was my job to prepare it. I said it was her job to steep it. She called this the most backwards thing she'd experienced. She asked to speak to the owner. The owner came out, explained the same thing, and offered to make her a fresh pot and demonstrate proper steeping. She refused and left, saying British tea wasn't as good as everyone claimed. I'm a pharmacist in Brighton. An American came in asking for Tylenol. I showed him paracetamol, same drug, different name. He examined the box suspiciously. This isn't Tylenol. I explained it was the British equivalent, same active ingredient. He said, why would you change the name? I said Britain didn't change anything, different countries, different brands. He looked unconvinced. But Tylenol is the scientific name. I assured him it absolutely wasn't. Acetaminophen was the scientific name. He said, then why is it called Tylenol? Marketing, I explained. He asked if our paracetamol was FDA approved. I said we used MHRA approval in the UK. He'd never heard of it. Is that legit? I confirmed it was our regulatory body. He said the FDA was the gold standard and didn't trust non-FDA medications. I suggested he not take any medication in Britain then. He said that was unreasonable. I agreed, which was why he should trust our regulations. He bought the paracetamol but kept muttering about sketchy foreign drugs. He asked if we had real pharmacists or just people who sell pills. I showed him my degree on the wall. He squinted at it. This is in English, at least. I didn't know how to respond to that. He left, still skeptical, but returned an hour later asking if we sold American Strength ibuprofen. I showed him our ibuprofen. He said, this is only 200 milligrams. In America, we have 800 milligrams. I explained that's prescription strength. He said Americans could buy it over the counter. They couldn't. He didn't believe me. I manage a restaurant in Bath. An American couple ordered fish and chip. When the food arrived, they looked confused. Where's the coleslaw? No coleslaw came with fish and chips, I explained. The husband said, every fish place in America serves coleslaw. I said this wasn't America. He said, it's still fish. His wife asked for ranch dressing. We didn't have ranch. She looked stunned. How do you not have ranch? I said it wasn't common in the UK. She asked what people dipped chips in. I said most people used ketchup or vinegar. They both recoiled. Vinegar? The husband said. On fries. I explained these were chips, not fries, and yes, vinegar was traditional. He said that sounded disgusting. I suggested trying it before judging. He refused. His wife asked if we could make ranch. I said no. She said, just mix mayonnaise and buttermilk. We didn't have buttermilk on hand for random sauce requests. The husband asked why our portions were so small. I said this was a standard portion. He said American portions were bigger. I said American portions were famously large. He said, because we know what customers want. His wife asked if we had real Coke or that weird European Coke. I said we had Coca-Cola. She said it tasted different. I explained different countries sometimes have slightly different formulas. She said that was false advertising. They ate their meal in silence, looking betrayed. When I brought the bill, the husband said, you should really update your menu to international standards. I asked what that meant. Ranch dressing, coleslaw, normal stuff. I said our menu was plenty normal for Britain. He said that was the problem. They left a review calling us aggressively British and saying we refuse to accommodate American dietary expectations. I work at a train station in York. An American approached the ticket counter insisting he didn't need to buy a ticket because he had a Universal Rail Pass. I asked to see it. He showed me an Amtrak loyalty card. I explained that wasn't valid in the UK. He said Amtrak was International Rail. I said it was American Rail. He insisted it worked everywhere trains exist. I asked where he got that idea. Common sense, he said. Rails are rails. I showed him our ticket options. He said they were way too expensive compared to Amtrak. I said this wasn't Amtrak. He asked why British trains cost more. I said I didn't set the prices, I just sold tickets. He demanded to see a supervisor. My supervisor explained the same thing. He accused us of scamming tourists. My supervisor suggested he walk then. He bought the ticket, complaining the entire time. In America, rail passes work on all trains. I said that sounded convenient for America. He asked why Britain didn't adopt that system. I said Britain had its own system. He said American systems were more logical. I handed him his ticket. He asked if it was valid on buses too. I said no. He looked outraged, as if I'd personally designed an inefficient transportation network just to spite him. He asked to speak to whoever's in charge of British trains. I said that would be the government. He asked for their phone number. I suggested Google. I drive a black cab in London. An American couple got in and asked to go to London Bridge, the famous one. I said London Bridge or Tower Bridge. They looked confused. Aren't they the same? I explained London Bridge was plain, Tower Bridge was the iconic one with towers. They insisted London Bridge was the famous one. We saw it in movies. I said those movies showed Tower Bridge. They didn't believe me. I drove them to Tower Bridge. They got out, took photos, happy as could be. Then the husband looked at me suspiciously. This is London Bridge, right? I said no, this was Tower Bridge. He said I was wrong. This is the one from all the pictures. I agreed, which was why it was called Tower Bridge. His wife pulled up photos on her phone. See? London Bridge. Every photo showed Tower Bridge. I explained they'd been mislabeled or she'd searched wrong. They refused to pay the full fare because I took them to the wrong bridge. I explained I took them exactly where they wanted to go, they just called it the wrong name. The husband said I should have known what they meant. I said I did, which was why we were at Tower Bridge. He said I was splitting hairs. His wife left a review saying I argued about bridge names instead of just driving. I work at a hotel in Newcastle. An American guest called the front desk in a panic. The heating is broken. It says 22 degrees. That's freezing. I explained we use Celsius, and 22 degrees Celsius was about 72 degrees Fahrenheit, perfectly comfortable room temperature. He said that was impossible. 22 is below freezing. I said that was Fahrenheit logic. In Celsius, freezing was 0. He went quiet for a moment. That's ridiculous. How do you know if it's cold? I explained that negative numbers meant below freezing, and anything above 20 was warm. He said, so 10 degrees is warm? I said no, 10 was cool. He said this system made no sense. In America, we have a logical scale. 32 is freezing. Anything above that is warmer. I said Celsius was based on water, 0 freezes, 100 boils. He said, water boils at 212. Everyone knows that. I said not in Celsius. He accused Europe of overcomplicating temperature. He demanded we change the thermostat to Fahrenheit. I explained the system didn't work that way. He said American hotels would accommodate this. I said he wasn't in an American hotel. He asked why Britain insisted on being difficult. I said we weren't being difficult, we just used a different measurement system. He muttered something about the metric system being a European conspiracy and hung up. He left the heating alone after that, but his checkout review mentioned our confusing and hostile temperature system. I work at a car rental agency in Edinburgh. An American picked up a car and came back 20 minutes later, furious. You gave me a broken car. The steering wheel is on the wrong side. I explained that in the UK we drive on the left, so the steering wheel is on the right. He said that was backwards. I said it was just different. He insisted it was dangerous. How am I supposed to drive? I offered to show him a quick tutorial. He refused. I've been driving for 30 years. I know how to drive. I suggested he might want a refresher since he'd be driving on the opposite side of the road. He said, "Roads are roads. I'll figure it out." I strongly recommended he at least drive around the car park a few times. He waved me off and drove away. He returned an hour later with a scraped passenger side. "Your roads are too narrow." I said Edinburgh's roads were built centuries ago for horses. He said that wasn't an excuse. He demanded a refund for the damage waiver because the car was defective from the start. I explained the car wasn't defective, he just wasn't used to right-hand drive. He said if the car was normal, he wouldn't have crashed. I asked if he'd driven on the left side of the road. He paused. "Mostly." I asked what mostly meant. He admitted he'd accidentally driven on the right a few times, but corrected quickly. I suggested that was why he hit things. He disagreed. British roads should have better signs. They did. He just hadn't looked. I work at the British Museum. An American family came to the information desk asking where the American history section was. I explained this was the British Museum. It focused on world history and cultures, but didn't have a dedicated American history section. The father looked shocked. "How can you call it a world museum without American history?" I said we had some artifacts from the Americas, but the museum's strength was ancient civilizations, Asia, Africa, and Europe. He said America was the most important country in world history. I suggested that was debatable and depended on perspective. He said it wasn't debatable. We won 2 world wars. I didn't want to get into a historical argument, so I just directed him to the Americas collection. He looked at it for 5 minutes and came back. "This is all ancient stuff. Where's the real America section? The Founding Fathers, the Constitution, the Revolution." I explained those artifacts would be in American museums, particularly the Smithsonian. He said the British Museum should have them since we fought you for independence. I said that was precisely why we didn't have them. They were American artifacts in American museums. He called this petty and said Britain was still salty about losing the colonies. His wife asked if we had anything about George Washington. I said we might have something, but it wasn't a major focus. She seemed personally offended. They left, and the father told his kids, "This is why American museums are better. They actually teach history." The wildest one happened at Edinburgh Castle. An American family arrived at the entrance, and the father started arguing with the ticket seller. "Why do we have to pay? It's a historical site." The seller explained that historical sites cost money to maintain. The father said, "In America, national parks are free." The seller said this wasn't a national park, it was a castle, and even American national parks charged entry fees. The father insisted he'd been to Yellowstone for free. The seller suggested he'd misremembered. The mother jumped in. "We pay taxes. That should cover it." The seller said, "Do you pay British taxes?" She paused. "We pay American taxes." The seller said, "Then those go to America, not Scotland." She called that discriminatory. The seller asked how. She couldn't explain, just kept repeating it was unfair that tourists had to pay. The father demanded to speak to whoever runs Edinburgh Castle. The seller said that would be Historic Environment Scotland. He asked for their phone number. She pointed to a sign with contact information. He didn't call. Instead, he paid for the tickets while muttering about money grabs. Inside, he complained loudly that the castle didn't have air conditioning. A security guard overheard and said, "It's a medieval castle." The father replied, "So? Ever heard of renovation?" The guard just walked away. The family spent an hour inside, complaining about everything. The stone floors were uneven and dangerous. The historical displays didn't have enough English. They were in English. He meant American English with simpler words. His teenage daughter asked why there wasn't free Wi-Fi. A staff member said it was a historic site, not a coffee shop. She said, "Even McDonald's has Wi-Fi." The staff member didn't respond. Here's what I've learned. Confidence doesn't require knowledge, and volume doesn't replace understanding. Some people believe their normal is everyone's normal, and no amount of evidence will change that. It's exhausting. It's bewildering. And honestly, it's never boring. If you've survived American tourists in your country, drop your stories below. I need to know we're not alone in this. Next time, I'll tell you about the Americans who tried to tip the Queen's Guard. Yes, really. And the ones who thought Big Ben was a person. And the family who asked where we keep the Queen when she's not working. I'm not making any of this up.